and sports. This is Grizzly Insider, sponsored by Albertson Safeway.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Grizz Insider here on the Montana Television Network. Alongside the voice of the Grizz, Riley Corcoran, I'm Kyle Hansen, and Riley, we are on to the FCS semifinals, and the Montana Grizzlies are the only Big Sky Conference team in it.
How about that? It has been just an incredible ride, Kyle, and I think that game that we're going to break down here against Furman, that's an all-timer at Washington Grizzly Stadium. I know that when me and you were walking out of the stadium, the first question we were already getting, where's that one rank? Where's that one rank?
Yeah.
Well, it's certainly going to be one of the top 3 games, I would say, ever that stadium's hosted in the playoffs. And it was a wild ride from start to finish. I think going into the game, we thought maybe it was going to be a defensive battle, low scoring. That got blown out the window right away. Junior Bergen and a couple big plays from Furman. We had 28 points after the end of the first quarter. It was a wild game.
Track meet started, right? It was crazy. I look up and see 14-14 at the end of the first quarter, and I'm just thinking, where are we right now? You know, this doesn't feel like the Montana Grizzlies, you know, especially whether that be, you know, just kind of that slow, steady get started. I mean, even the Bobcat game was 14-0, you know what I mean?
Absolutely, and especially when we chronicle this season, right? And the story has just been so fun to be a part of. And when the Grizzlies first started building this winning streak, Kyle, it was all one-possession wins.
Right.
So they obviously got to this dominant stretch, but they had to remember what it was like playing in a close game. And I don't know, we'll have to ask Coach Hauck if that had to do something with them being, you know, composed in that moment, because they certainly needed to be. There was a lot of adversity thrown their way in that game. They were able to answer the call.
It's wild. So you get the kickoff return by Junior Bergen to start. I mean, what a way to start the game, first off. You know, and send that place into a frenzy. And then you get Furman responding immediately, right? And they get the touchdown. Then there's kind of little ebbs and flows. Both offenses seem to struggle a little bit. And then you get McDowell scores, and then Furman has the response. I mean, it says a lot about both teams, the way I felt that Furman was up to the task here in Missoula.
You know what it is, Kyle? It's the championship mentality, right?
Yes.
Both of those teams were champions of their conference. Both teams wanted to be the bully going into that game. And for everything that was said maybe throughout the course of the week, Furman leading up to it, they felt a little bit disrespected. You have to give them credit because they backed it up. They absolutely proved that they belonged to be in that arena. They proved that the SoCon at least deserved to make it to the quarterfinals at that point. But it was just a battle of wills. And I did think once both teams settled into the game, there were a couple moments where Montana, and I feel that when they look back at the film, will kick themselves because if a field goal goes in and they go up by 2 scores going into halftime, that might flip the narrative. The unfortunate interception that was just a miscommunication. If that doesn't happen, does Furman get on the board again? So a lot of moments that could have flipped it one way, but again, the Grizzlies were battle-tested enough to will it out in the end.
Absolutely. One of the things I noted about Furman before the game was watching them warm up. They were the most vocal team I think I've ever seen in Washington Grizzly Stadium, like pregame. It wasn't trash talk, it was like hyping each other up, right? And there's some talk about the weather, you could hear it, and everybody says, well, you might jinx yourself that way, but they were very about it, right? They were very hyped and ready for the moment, and it showed. And let's go ahead and go to that fourth quarter. I mean, Furman's leading. They get that interception. They take the lead, but man, Junior Bergen, what can you say? And just, I mean, that's an all-time moment, Washington Grizzly Stadium, safe to say.
It is, Kyle, and I think it's so fitting that touchdown was for the new school record for his 4th punt return touchdown. And I'll admit, I think me, along with you, a bunch of people in that stadium, my stomach was in knots. When it was 21-20 Furman and the Grizzlies punted for a second time, Furman just ran the ball on 3rd down. And that showed me that, hey, we know we can't really score again, but we're going to just let our defense try and take this over. And Junior Bergen, he provided the spark again. I mean, so cool, calling out blocks. Jackson Lee being able to take out a couple of guys there, too. So that right there will go down, I think. And this was Junior Bergen's career game, right? And I think it's very fitting because he's such a guy that does it on the biggest stage.
Absolutely. Then Grizzlies get it done in overtime. Just real quick, what can you say about that sequence? I mean, they wasted no time, both offense and defense, to get it done.
They did. I think Clifton McDowell saved his best throw for overtime right there. Tight window to Keelan White. And then let's not forget about the defensive MVP in the Big Sky. Alex Gubner, first play of overtime, got Furman off schedule, made them have to be a throwing team, and that proved to be the difference as the Grizz got that stop.
What a game, what an atmosphere, and we have an awesome show coming your way. Up next, Riley's going to catch up with head coach Bobby Hauck to break down the win over Furman.
Welcome back to Grizzly Insider, sponsored by Albertson Safeway.
And welcome back to the Grizz Insider, still riding high from that big-time quarterfinal win over Furman, joined by head coach Bobby Hauck. And Coach, I mean, there are so many plays that we're going to dive into throughout this one, but what were your initial thoughts when you finally walked out of the press conference? You're able to think about it for a little bit. That was a wild game inside Washington Grizzly Stadium.
Well, it was exciting enough for you, right?
Yeah, it was. Thank you.
All right,
Thank
good.
you.
Yeah, everybody had to stay in their seats till the end of it. What a game! It was. There's a lot of football played in that game. There's a ton of plays. Both teams fought really hard, and I was glad that we came out on top. We have a competitive bunch. And, we ended up making one more play than they did.
No question. And, Coach, I think this season has been so awesome from the progression, right, from the late September to where you guys are at now. One thing that we haven't had in a while is a close game. You guys have been running away from your competition, but you guys had won 4 one-score games earlier on in the year. How much did that maybe help you? You guys were locked in a tussle. What were the conversations that feel like when, hey, it was a blow-for-blow type game rather than a runaway?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, we'd really been 2 months. They're all blowouts. It's good to be in a close game because, if you want to continue to move forward, there's probably going to be more of those. Everybody's good. And so, knowing you can win close games is a good thing. I think our guys operate well in that situation. You watch it, there's not a lot of panic or anything like that on our sideline.
No, there wasn't. All the way throughout the game, adversity hit. Grizzlies were ready for it. I mean, let's start off the top. Mr. Special Teams guy right here, and we're going to talk with Junior Bergen here momentarily with Kyle Hansen. But, I mean, those returns, they're going to go down in Grizzly history. And Junior Bergen, let's talk about the kickoff return to start the game. You run a new return. Take us behind the scenes a little bit of how it all came together, how it was blocked, and how it was the score.
Well, they should go down in Grizzly history. That doesn't happen very often, and having two scores in the game was something. The opening kickoff return was a new return. It was not something we'd ever done before. We worked the heck out of it last week, and the guys executed it really well. I'm glad we got a return ball. And to go out the gate, a touchdown on the first play of the game is a pretty cool way to start. And then the punt return, all June had to do was run. Those guys blocked it really well, and obviously that's what got us over the hump. So those are big plays. I think it's somewhat remarkable that that's back-to-back years in a playoff game that we've had a punt and a kickoff return for a touchdown in the same game.
Well, of course, the SEMO game last year is when that happened. Malik Flowers, the kick return, Junior Bergen, the punt return. With that punt return, Junior Bergen, now #1 all-time, 4 career punt return touchdowns, passes a couple of Grizzly Hall of Famers. Okay, how about on the defensive side? We thought going into this game, Coach, this was going to be a tussle. 2 teams really good defensively. What were you guys able to do to slow them down? They had a couple big plays, but as far as the meat of the game, they really couldn't move the ball very much.
Well, they couldn't, but in the first quarter, as you're well aware and got to diagnose on the radio Saturday, we gave up 2 big plays in the first quarter, one on a slant into pressure and one on a run on an unbalanced formation. It was just really poor play by us. Obviously, we didn't continue with that. We shut them down the rest of the way. I think the quarterback was 16 for 48 or 49 or something, and they really couldn't do anything against our defense after that, but sometimes that's enough, and they have a great defense. I'm glad it wasn't enough, but we've got to be aware of the fact we can't be giving up those big plays.
Well, your defense certainly looked athletic to me out there in that big-time win. How about on the other side of the ball, offensively, Coach? It was a battle. I mean, we knew those guys were going to be good up front. Running the football at least was hard to come by, but you guys made just enough plays to get the job done. Take me through the journey on the offensive side of the ball from the game on Friday.
Well, it's been really good. As we mentioned, we've blown everybody out for almost 2 months, and part of that's just going up and down the field on offense. We weren't able to do that on Saturday. We were a little off kilter. We didn't convert. We didn't get drives going. We didn't run the ball well enough. I mean, they're all those things that lend themselves to a rough night offensively. And so it wasn't smooth for us, but it was enough. And our guys fought their tails off. And then, my favorite is we grabbed the ball in overtime and just went boom, boom, boom and scored it and looked like we had hoped we'd look the whole game.
Well, it came alive right when it needed to. 6 straight games now for these Grizzlies. They've scored 34 points or more. Okay, Coach, the Bison come in. It's the battle of the Titans, the way that I'm looking at it, to the top 2 winningest programs in the 21st century. An early preview on North Dakota State, round 2 in the playoffs this time in Missoula.
Well, they're very good. I mean, nothing's changed. They dropped a couple of games in their conference and wound up having to go on the road in the playoffs. And, they weren't a 1-2 seed like they're accustomed to being. But they're the same bunch. They're good. They're a really fine football team. And watching that game yesterday, to me, they look like the team to beat. So we've got to. It's going to be a dogfight to get this one.
We cannot wait for Saturday at 2:30. On the other side of the break, Kyle Hansen will talk with Junior Bergen.
Welcome back to Grizzly Insider, sponsored by Albertson Safeway.
And welcome back to the Grizzly Insider. And rumor has it that Junior Bergen had so much fun earlier this year on the show that he just really needed a performance to get back here. And boy, oh boy, did you do that, Junior. Welcome back. And what a game against Furman this last weekend.
Thank you. I appreciate you for having me on.
Absolutely. I mean, you blew the roof off of Washington Grizzly Stadium. You guys getting the win, moving on to the semifinals. Just first of all, just walk me through that atmosphere and getting a win like that.
Man, it feels amazing. You know, when we were warming up, it's not really packed in there, and then we come out for like right before the game, and it's just sold out, and you know the place is rocking, it's loud, and you know you feed off of that stuff. And I just tried to make a play. I didn't know how many balls we'd get back there, and you know I just tried to give them something to cheer about, I guess. Yeah.
Absolutely. Boy, oh boy, did you do that. And, you know, so I guess that atmosphere, and I guess kind of being amped up a little bit, how much did that feed in that opening kickoff? Because their kicker does a really nice job at touchbacks, but you got to return, and, you know, 13 seconds in, the Grizzlies score.
Yeah, it was a lot. You know, you go back, and like, right as soon as I'm running back there, the crowd just gets louder and louder, like right before I set up. And so you kind of just like get the juices flowing for sure. And you just try to go make a play. You just never know. Just make sure you do your job, and this is what it could go for sure.
Absolutely. Well, and you make a great point. You just want to make a play because the opportunities are few and far between. Malik kind of felt was something different with kick return, and obviously punt returning is big for you. So just walk us through the play, what you were seeing from your blockers, and how you're able to kick it off so well.
Well, I saw the ball and I was like, oh, we might have a chance. And I just remember getting up to like the wedge, and I lose Garrett, and Garrett's usually up there a little more, and Garrett kind of disappeared, and I was like, oh shoot. I seen Sloan and Jake get their blocks, and I just got right off Sloan's butt, and just opened up, and it was just me and the kicker, and I just I had to beat the kicker.
And there it goes, right? Well, I think back to like the SEMO game last year too, right? Like how big a special team score can be for you guys, whether it's later in the game or starting the game off. I mean, just to set the tone like that so well, just how gratifying is that, knowing all that work leading into the game paid off just right off?
Yeah, it's sweet, because special teams is a big thing around here, and we can change games on the special teams. So whether that's punt, kickoff, kick return, punt return, we know we have a chance to impact the game. And I told those guys right before we went out for the punt return, let's change this game. Let's go make a play. And everybody did their job, and we were able to put it in the end zone.
Absolutely. Well, so let's transition to that, the punt return. Obviously, the third quarter, both defenses are playing very well. Both offenses are struggling a little bit, and Furman obviously takes that 21-20 lead. So punt return comes up. Benham pinned Furman down earlier in the game, and then you get a chance to return that punt. What were you seeing there? And then, obviously the stadium by that point was just madness.
Yeah, that's Travis, man. He does that all the time. He does it dang near every day. He just puts it down there and drops it inside the 5, and it was pretty cool to see. And our defense held him. I was hoping I'd get a shot. I knew we'd go after it a little bit, and he'd possibly line drive it, and he did. And he kind of outkicked the coverage, and I was able to hit the wall. And everybody did their jobs, man. And I appreciate those guys a lot. Those guys don't get enough credit for what they do, and we were able to get in the end zone.
Absolutely. And you guys retook the lead, obviously, and just the stadium was just craziness. And, it's even crazy after that, everybody's playing, but everybody's still celebrating. Yeah. And just that atmosphere in a playoff game, just what was it like making another play like that? And obviously, you set the record, too, and Junior Bergen now stands alone as the punt return king here at Montana.
Man, it was a surreal feeling. I remember looking at Drew, and I was like, dude, it doesn't get much better than this, man. We're a sold-out crowd. The only game on, we're able to own the moment and just make plays, man. That was just sweet, and I credit all those guys who did their jobs on the kickoff and punt return. Those guys really did. They just did their job.
Right. Did their job, helped you. You guys, everybody worked as a unit, got it done. And just what does it say about this team? Obviously, you guys get the win in overtime. McKeelan gets the touchdown in overtime. And just, through all the ups and downs, ebbs and flows of that game, just to come out on top, just what was it like to see you guys persevere through all the adversity in that one?
It was sweet because we'd found ourselves in that situation a couple times early in the year where we were kind of score late, take the lead again, and then, defense just has to anchor down and do what they do. And, they did it once again. Props to Keelan. He had a great game, kind of underrated game, really, I think. I don't think he got enough credit for that. He had a big catch over the middle, put us up, and then our defense went out and did what they do.
Absolutely. So as a whole, Junior, 12-1 now for this football team. You guys have won 9 straight games. Just what has this run been like to get you guys to the semifinals for first time in 12 years? And just how do you keep it rolling? But just overall, just what's this experience been like in your junior year?
Man, it's been great. It's been all you could ask for here. We come here to win championships, and thankfully we've won one. But we want to win as many as we can. And I just don't think that this team's done yet. We come to work every day. We work our butts off. We don't feel like it's over for us. So we're going to get back to work tomorrow and just prepared for NDSU.
What a game it was, and congrats to you, Junior, again on the accomplishment. What a game, what an atmosphere for you.
Thank you, appreciate you.
Absolutely. Coming up, Riley and I will look ahead to the North Dakota State Bison and the FCS semifinals.
Take coverage of the Grizz with you. Download our app for your favorite mobile device today. Welcome back to Grizzly Insider, sponsored by Albertson Safeway.
And welcome back. It's been a great show so far. Junior Bergen and then Coach Hauck, they're ready to rock. And Kyle, I tell you what, this group has made the quarterfinals 3 times in the last 4 years. What, in your eyes, has been the biggest difference of why this team in particular is the one that makes it to the semifinals?
You know, first of all, it's amazing the playoff format, right, in the FCS. Like, I just feel very grateful we get to watch that. The moments, you know, the FBS doesn't quite get to have that right now. And the FCS level, it truly is special to have this bracket and playoff format, similar to basketball and things like that, which is great. But, you know, like Coach Hauck touched on, health, right? I mean, that cannot be overstated. You know, we were talking kind of off camera a little bit. They were dinged up that first week of fall camp. It was looking like years past with some of the guys dropping like flies. Hank Noose goes down day 1, makes his return against Furman this last game, gets a sack. So that has to be a big part, but honestly, it's the adjustments they made throughout the year too, right? I mean, we saw them, as you touched on earlier in the show, the 1-score wins, right? And, you know, close games, but all of a sudden they change. The offense gets a little more dynamic. The defense settles into roles. Special teams makes big plays. All of a sudden, you're blowing out teams, and it was all blowouts up until the Furman game. So it just felt like they kind of hit their role, but were kind of rolling and, you know, changed some things to make it work down the stretch.
What's amazing, Kyle, is that the Grizzlies are not the same team, clearly, that they were in September.
Right.
Much can be said about North Dakota State, the opponent coming in here this weekend, because they absolutely were left for dead. 3 losses to their quote-unquote rivals in North Dakota State, South Dakota, and South Dakota State. And all of a sudden, the Bison are a different team as well. Your thoughts on their run, and in particular, their dominating win over South Dakota last week?
Well, you hit it on the head. Everybody was shoveling dirt on theirs and Montana's graves earlier this season, and now here we are. You know, the cream rises to the top, as you like to say, and it's crazy because, first of all, the historic element of this, right? It's the Grizzlies, the program of the 90s and the 2000s, playing North Dakota State, the program of the 2010s, could play South Dakota State, the program of the 2020s right now. I mean, these blue bloods are really starting to come through, and boy, North Dakota State, we talked about this, how kind of a fluky loss to South Dakota the first time, right? Kind of an odd year. Obviously, lost to South Dakota State. We know how good they are. But they got hot. They got hot going into that Bobcat game. We thought, you know, this could be the upset because maybe North Dakota State could have been a seed. And then against South Dakota, I mean, they left no doubt. 21-3 in the first quarter, and they just rolled from there. Had the pick before half when we were up 35-3. Just, I mean, it was all them and just never felt in doubt even from the start.
It really looks like the Bison teams of old, very fitting. The 2 winningest programs in the FCS in the 21st century will square off on Saturday in the best setting you could ever have here in Missoula as well. Now, we highlighted as we take a look at the rest of the bracket, Kyle. I mean, we looked at a couple of games, and you said, hey, watch out for that UAlbany-Idaho contest, and obviously the NDSU-South Dakota game. There were some upsets, just 2-2 if you talk about the home team record. So what stood out when you take a peek at the rest of the bracket here in the FCS?
First, it had to be North Dakota State to start because of how dominant that was, right? I felt like they would beat South Dakota because South Dakota was that unknown. I didn't think they would beat them in the fashion they did. I mean, like you said, they look like the Bison of old, and they look like the team right now. But then UAlbany, what a grind-out win over Idaho. A team flying across the country, playing late on Saturday against Idaho. The Vandals have had some bumps, but obviously they're building their program. I mean, how nice it is to have football relevant in Moscow again the last 2 years, you know? And so they've been building, they've been exciting, but UAlbany getting it done, not leading for most of the game up until about 5 minutes left, and they get that touchdown, and then they don't relinquish it, and got the strip sack, kind of like Montana did against the Vandals. How wild.
Well, the nation's leader in sacks and takeaways, very fitting that they won the game on a strip sack at the very end, and the semifinal field is set. Should be a doozy here this weekend. Of course, UAlbany taking on South Dakota State. That'll be Friday night, and the big one on Saturday at 2:30, Grizz and the Bison. We'll wrap up the Grizz Insider next.
There's more coverage of the Grizzlies online anytime at montanasports.com. Welcome back to Grizzly Insider, sponsored by Albertson Safeway.
Welcome back to the Grizz Insider, and Riley, you couldn't draw it up any better. Montana, North Dakota State, 2 programs with so much history. How fitting is that?
Very fitting, Kyle. I think we're pinching ourselves. This matchup finally transpired, right? We were looking at the bracket, a possibility, and then the couple of results. Here we go, and everyone talks about it. The last time the Grizz hosted a semifinal, 2009, that might have been the best game ever played inside Washington Grizzly Stadium. This one will try and top it on Saturday afternoon.
You are absolutely right. I cannot wait to see how it goes. What a scene Washington Grizzly Stadium will be on Saturday afternoon, and we'll see you all there. Have a great week.